Chapter 3, Information System Basics, attempts to answer the following three questions. What is the difference between data, information, and knowledge? What are information systems and what are their components? And what is information management? So let's go ahead and look at that. Data, information, and knowledge. The book defines data as constitutes reinterpretable representations of information or knowledge in a formalized manner suitable for communications, interpretation, or processing by humans. The book also provides a definition for information and knowledge. Information is specific determination about entities such as facts, events, things, persons, processes, ideas, or concepts. Knowledge defined as general information about concepts in a certain scientific or professional domain, such as diseases or therapeutic methods. The reason why the book gets into these three definitions is because when you get into defining what an information system is, or what you're looking at, the basics of how an information system is made up, you really have to define these three terms. I mean, you need to know what is data. When you clearly define it, especially in a healthcare information systems, it has to be defined in order for that system to comply with the definition of data. And what is the actual information? It's really what's happening when you look at the entities of specific things, as it mentioned, such as facts. And then knowledge is really what's happening, like for instance, in a healthcare setting, you have like a nurse or a doctor. The doctor has knowledge about a specific domain. Let's say it's oncology or neurology or orthopedics. Those are really knowledge-based domains. That what the doctor does with that domain when they process or work with the patient record, they're actually dealing with information itself. When the record stores that information inside of a reinterpretable format in the system, it puts it in the form of data, which can be processed by either a human or a machine. So that's why this chapter starts out with those definitions. Now, when you look at an information system and its components, what you have to look at when you break it down is all of its systems and subsystems. So a system inside itself can be defined really as the overall components that are put together. For instance, the actual information system itself can be defined as a set of persons, things, events, relationships that forms as an integrated whole. And then something as a subsystem would comprise of sort of subcomponents. For instance, if you had the human body would be the system itself, and then a subsystem of that might be the nervous system or the muscular system, or the organs would be a subsystem. But each of those subsystems would be a system within itself. So if you look at the system as a whole and how it integrates with a medical center might be a system, or a hospital. And then inside that hospital are subsystems, for instance, departments such as wards, like Ward C would be a subsystem, or the laboratory would be a subsystem of that hospital, but that subsystem itself can also be defined as a system. So with that then becomes an information system, which is really part of the institution that processes and actually stores the data. So when you describe the information system, you're really looking at, in a healthcare information system, is what stores the healthcare data itself and how that's done. So the components of that information system have to support. So if you have this overall information system that's designed to store the data, it really has to be designed to meet the needs of the enterprise or the functions of the healthcare system, its actual business processes. It has to involve application components, and then literally have the physical data processing processing components itself, which would be down to the layer of the servers or the actual computers that process the information. So business processes could be defined in the system, such as accounting department, or maybe the clinical management or the clinical pathway that supports diabetic patients. The information system has to have different software components that support functions of the enterprise, such as like a radiology package that has software that deals with all of the management of X-ray images, or maybe a laboratory package that supports like lab tests that comes from lab equipment, such as blood test or urinary evaluation machines that look at chemical components, that then has to send data through interfaces like HL7 to the application itself. So, and then data centers usually are quite large when you look at healthcare information management systems, comprised of like a server room with actual physical hardware components that in an air-conditioned environment, that have storage mechanisms, backup mechanisms, and things like that. So information systems can be broken down into all these different components. And then you actually have the architecture or the infrastructure, which really what they're talking about there is it's really how you bring and describe bringing all of these processes together that's described just in the bullet before. So it's really what describes the relationship between the enterprise functions, the business processes, the application components, the physical data processing system, how they interrelate and come together. So that's really where the architecture and infrastructure is important to understand how those information systems interrelate. And so when you have the complexities of an information system, it requires management. And typically this is now done in a modern setting by information management, or commonly known as a CIO, or Chief Information Officer, within any type of information management department. So in a medical center, typically they would have a CIO, a Chief Information Officer, and that CIO would be responsible for managing the different components of an information system. But really when they define it in the book, they're talking about an information management or an information management system comprising of those management activities that deals with the information processing within the institution. For example, a hospital, and the goal of that would be to process it such that it supports the institution's strategic goals. And then with that, the information management officer or the CIO would have to make sure that they appropriately plan resources, direct those resources, and monitor all the resources required for information management systems, or the management of the processing of information within an information management system. So with that, Chapter 3, we have another homework which on the blackboard is titled HW3, Chapter 3-Information System Basics. This homework assignment includes 10 fill-in-the-blank questions and 2 essay questions.